Hey, Doug, how are you?
I'm good, Sir Patrick. How are you?
Doing good. It's good to see you. Um,
Good to be seen.
awesome, awesome, awesome. We'll kick this off here. We'll be talking about shift here today, which is always a fun one, especially right now. How are you doing? How's Glenda doing? How's your families?
Everybody's healthy. The old elderly parents are good. Glenda just went for a walk, so
Okay.
Good stuff.
Good. Love hearing that. Yeah, it's a wild world we're living in right now, isn't it?
Amen.
All kinds of different opportunity. Just how do we want to look at that?
Crazy stuff, that's for sure.
It is. Hey, Jim, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing awesome. Having some fun.
So what is shift exactly? So
so
I'm just jumping on everything.
Yeah, great question. Hey, Freddie. So Shift is a book that was written in 2009 when we had the last major economic shift. And what's great about this is it's one where we've taken it back out, knocked the dust off of it, and started implementing some of the strategies that we had 10 years ago. The key around it is how do we take what's in here and then implement it into today's market, which is the neat thing about this mastermind class that we do is that it's not me reading the book Shift to you. What we do is we talk about each topic that happens, each tactic that happens. So for example, on Wednesday, what we talked about was different strategies, pricing strategies for selling listings. And it's pricing ahead of the market. And we talked about seller staging strategies as well, which is awesome because, when we start thinking staging, what is that? Why, right? Like, what is the ROI on staging? And today, and so that was on Wednesday. Today we'll talk about instead on number 9, creating urgency. Oh, that's a fun one, right? Especially right now. So when I say creating urgency, what is that spark? Is there something that hits you right away with that you go, oh my gosh, urgency? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, trying to figure out the seller's hot points. What's the most urgent? Help them to get to an understanding of their goals, and to help that creates urgency for their sale.
Yeah, absolutely. So how can we take that and plug it into today's market? Hey, Erica, Doug, how can we take that exact statement and plug it into today's market?
Well, it'd be it's a very difficult market to get showings. No showings. So to get it sold, really you need to understand, I guess, first of all, what how much is the urgency of the seller? Does he really need to be selling in this market? Is it an absolute necessity? Then you're going to have to be aggressive on pricing to get it to move.
And it's the urgency of the buyer at this point in time too. Are they going to commit to doing the contract at this time so they can see the house? Because they're going to try to beat you down trying to see the house without doing the contract first.
Okay, so tying into that then, right? Because we do buyer contracts with our buyers. Gosh, I hope so.
Yes.
Right. So now, if the strategy, because we're talking about creating urgency, and you're absolutely, both of you are absolutely right. It goes on both sides, doesn't it? The seller urgency motivation, the buyer urgency motivation. Why should a buyer buy in this market right now?
Less competition.
I was going to say, yeah,
Okay,
less competition.
Yep, Erica, you're right. So let's deep dive into that, right? Put on our scuba gear. So less competition, what do you mean by that?
There's not as many buyers looking at the properties, and so they're not going up against as many other buyers.
Okay, that's great. So tying that in, right? what would be the emotional piece? How do you, we had a crazy market here, didn't we, for the last few years? I mean, it's holy
No,
cow.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know. No matter what the price point is, 25 offers. I think that was the running number.
Yep.
Right? So we talk about expired listings. Do we have an expired buyers program? Who are the buyers that we've worked with in the last year, 2 years, maybe even 3 years ago that didn't get the property they wanted? Or they got emotions came in, right? Because what you're talking about, increased competition. Two things happen, depending on the person. Either we go in full on aggressive mode on this offer and we do everything we can to get it, right? Or we push back against it and say it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
So how many buyers have we had that they haven't found that perfect home yet? And they're expired buyers, really. I mean, they've kind of gone through that. So do we have a system and a model we can use to reach out to buyers that create urgency? Because you're right on that. The decreased competition. What's another thing that we know about today's market?
It's going to take a longer close time.
Right? It could. Sure, it could. Yeah, depending on how we.
What the
What's that,
lenders,
Doug?
what the lenders are saying, allow more time for closing. So
Right, right. You know what's wild? So my wife is a mobile notary, and so she's a signing agent, and she's seen more business now than she has ever seen. I mean, today, for example, she has 11 closings. So there's still, my point is, no matter what, real estate is still being bought, sold, traded, no matter what. So it's just now we have to be more creative. Tying in, Jim, you mentioned this a little bit earlier. We know that we can do what? 3 things: inspections, appraisals, closings, right? Unless there's something else I'm missing. So we know we can do inspections. How are we structuring our offers to where it has a buyer inspection in the beginning? This offer is contingent upon a buyer inspection. Now, there's nothing saying that you couldn't do more than one inspection in the transaction, right? You
Right,
could have
so
a
we have
buyer's,
dual clauses. We have a buyer clause, that they can inspect the home that we've spoken about, and then you have the regular inspection after the fact.
right. The key around creating urgency is creating emotion and being authentic, right? Like we've seen, and I've seen ads on Facebook that have talked about, hey, you must be, you're stuck at home. So I'm sure by now you've realized your home is too small. Let's get you another home, right? That doesn't go over very well usually. That creates a different type of emotion that says you must be selling to me. So how can we create emotion that's not selling? What could be some things that we could do to create urgency where it doesn't seem like you're selling, you're actually giving information, right? So let's throw that out there. What are your thoughts around that? Creating urgency where it doesn't sound like selling.
well, if you had especially if you got somebody with a particular area or neighborhood, you can do a price analysis and see where the price points are. That there's an opportunity within a decreased pricing market.
Absolutely, Doug. So tie on that for a little bit. What if we did unsolicited CMAs to everyone in our neighborhood? What if we did something where we said, hey, we'll do a Zoom with all the buyers, abandoned buyer program, right? I'm running an abandoned buyer program. Well, gosh, what does that mean? When we hear the word abandonment, what does that cause?
Negative emotion.
Yeah, negative emotion, right? They're left on an island. I mean, that's kind of what we look at, right? Or they're at the Grand Canyon and it's like the Joe Dirt analogy, right? Turns around and where's the family at, right? Joe Dirte. So when we look at that, we're creating emotion. So what if we ran an expired buyer program and an abandoned buyer program? What does that mean? Well, we know that based on our market that we've had the last several years, not every buyer found that perfect property. So let's do a Zoom call. Let's all talk about this and mastermind together on how we can find that perfect property, how we can actually no longer be abandoned, right? That creates a different conversation. Now, the key may be, you know, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, I'm sure that throughout the buying process over the last year, right, how has that made you feel, right? And you start to tie into that, cool. Have you had a lot of conversations with others around buying real estate? Okay, fantastic. Who could you invite to this Zoom so we could get their perspective as well? Maybe it's going through Command and sending out landing pages to every single A, B, and C buyer that's in our database. And then asking, who do you know in your neighborhood that also would like to have a landing page, which, so a landing page, Freddie and Erica, is gonna be like, it's just like a CMA. It's a digital CMA that has live data. So if something goes under contract within 24 hours, it's updated on that landing page. So they get to see what's going on in their neighborhood at that moment. So it's really cool, right? And it's not necessarily saying, I'm going to send you this landing page and then expect you to list with me. It may instead be saying, hey, Doug, I'm going to send you and Glenda this landing page. I really would like to get your feedback on it. And my other quick question is, who in the next week, who are 2 of your neighbors that you could reach out to me with so I could send them a landing page too? Because I'm sure they're going a little stir crazy, right? How do we tie on to the emotions of today in this market to start shifting that conversation? What are your thoughts around that? I can smile and stay quiet, so it's awesome.
We can too. We have mute buttons.
I know, right?
But when you said that, I immediately started thinking about how I'm going stir crazy in my own house and have to get out and take a walk through my own neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was thinking, what would stop me from printing out some little cards or something that have a landing page address on them for my neighborhood and sticking them on every door or on every mailbox as I'm walking past with my kiddos, give them something to do.
Yeah. It's all community. It's just how we do it, right? Like, it's not what can't we do, it's what can we do and what are the methods around that. So yeah, Erica, absolutely. Then you're doing more than one thing at once, right? Because you're starting with the necessity, which is the peace of mind, right? Like, being totally real. Taking a walk makes us feel good. Freddie, you do this every morning. Not that I'm stalking you on Facebook, but you and Rufus, right? So you take a walk. So you take a walk every morning. Why? Right? It's not just to walk the dog. So how are we using that time in order to create efficiency?
Hey, Erica, by the way, don't put it on the mailbox. That's illegal. Front door.
There you go.
Okay.
So yes, let's stay within the law. And you know, the key around this is, right, what can we do to become efficient? If it's something where, you know, I've had an arm wrestling match with this over the last 3 weeks. Is a big message that we've talked about has been double down on your lead gen, right? Double down on your lead gen. If you did 2 hours, now you do 4 hours. What's the reality of that, of doing 4 hours of lead gen uninterrupted? Yeah, pretty low.
Not happening in my house. I have 3 kids at home.
I'm with you 1,000%, right? Yeah. Between tracking a 1-year-old running around and a 10-year-old, I mean, good Lord. I feel as Doug, you and I were joking around Mr. Mom, Michael Keaton, right? Like, literally, I am feeling like Michael Keaton. So the key around it is, maybe it's not the amount of hours, it's really the efficiency.
Mhm.
What could you do for 1 hour and knock it out of the park and be uber efficient with that 1 hour? Tying that into creating urgency could then start to create what we call a GPS, which is a one-page business plan, right? You have your goal, you have 3 priorities, so your top 3, and then you have 5 strategies to each one of these priorities. So have we done a 30-day GPS? A conversation that has came up in a lot of the coaching that goes on right now that I have the pleasure of doing has been not having a roadmap. We know the activities, yet what is our focus? What does our roadmap look like? At the end of this, what do you want, because there will be an end, what do you want your business and life to look like? It gets us thinking, doesn't it? When I say that, what are some of your thoughts that hit you? Because within 5 seconds, you had some type of thought.
Yeah, anything worth pursuing needs to have a goal and some strategies attached to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What are some of your other thoughts? That's great, Doug.
Well, my thought was it would be really nice to know where I'm going and not just be stuck in limbo.
Right. So having a direction, right?
Mhm.
So, and that's one of the things, Erica, we'll work on together is that GPS. Having a direction gives us a purpose. It gives us a focus. And now we can get efficient. So here's an idea. We have our pipeline. Gosh, I hope we have a pipeline. And have we rated that pipeline, A, B, or C? Awesome. So have we reached out to the C's who now could become A's based on the current environment? A lot of times we get so focused on the A's that we have in the pipeline that we forget about the C's. We forget about the B's, if I'm being totally transparent. And that's, hello, my name is Patrick, right? So if I had a plan around this, would I be forgetting about them? If I took all my C's in my pipeline and did a Zoom call and did a Zoom about what you need to know about buying or selling in this environment of today. Now we have a collaboration going on just like we do right now. The cool thing about that, a few questions, and now you get everyone in the pipelines talking to each other. And here's actually what's really cool. This isn't area specific at all, right? Like I could do a Zoom with Denver, I'm from Alaska, with my database from Alaska, and talk about how small businesses are helping out other small businesses. And let that be the topic that could start running. Now I have small business owners that are on a Zoom in different areas of the country sharing ideas. How powerful is that? And it's out of the box, isn't it? I haven't heard anyone doing that.
No, outside the box.
Yeah. So the key around this market, the key around everything going on is there is something under that rock. We just got to figure out how to flip it. And if you're coming through Care First, the reason I focused on small businesses, well, let me just ask that question actually. Why do you think I focused on small businesses?
Because they've got a particular pain point right now.
What is that pain point, Doug?
Survival.
Being real. Yeah. 1000%.
Will they be able to stay in business going forward?
Yeah. So what is their plan, right? Some of them don't have a plan. I mean, they really don't have a plan. But maybe it could be something to where we highlight a small business of the week, or we tie in something around small businesses, right? Masterminding, how do you survive COVID as a small business? How do you go from survival to thrive? And oh, by the way, small business owner, who in your small business could you invite to be on this call with us? So which one of your employees could you invite? Which one of your raving fans could you invite? Which other small business could we invite that I haven't reached out to yet? Who do I need to know that you know? What are your thoughts around that? Because I know my mind's flying right now. And I've only had 1 cup of coffee. Holy cow. This is actually a big old glass of water, believe it or not. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's just keep my mind going a different direction a little bit, but using what you're talking about, because I'm, working on building coaching clients as well.
Yeah.
But it's just, there's some juice, some energy on just, instead of just sitting and waiting for this to break and something to happen, this is being intentional. Whatever it is you come up with, I've already got two newer ideas. So it's, just getting proactive while you're sitting. I mean, it's very hard for me as an extrovert to sit inside and not interact with anybody. So instead of focusing on that, focus on, okay, what can you do to reach out and offer something of value? That's my thought.
I love it. I love it. What are some of your other thoughts? Great. Great one, Doug.
This morning while I was on the treadmill, I was watching a movie called The Founder, and it's kind of odd because it was Michael Keaton. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
No.
If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. It's about how McDonald's came about. He plays Ray Kroc, and just how their efficiencies and how they just went through everything, what didn't work in the old drive-in methods, and how they ended up creating this McDonald's. I mean, this huge corporation just because they identified a need and went from it. And I'm thinking, I've been thinking about it all day. It's kind of weird you brought this up. But I'm just trying to think of how we can use the situation of today and what we can do differently to take that and springboard into the future. I mean, just, it's just going through my head. I just been kind of racing with it, just trying to figure out how we can take the circumstances and move forward with them and, identify the need and go forward with it.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
I think the main thing I've gotten out of this is it could be small business, it could be anything where you're getting the community together, and the masterminding concept of any Zoom call that you can do right now is very powerful. So you can either reach out to your buyers that were not qualified before and get them all together, or your lenders to see where they are with, strategies to approve people, or how hard it's going to be, and even your sellers, get them CMAs and see where they're at, make sure they feel good about their investment. But I think the concept of, okay, what can I do? What tools are there that I can use right now? And if you don't know how to use Zoom right now, then at this point, right, then it's probably not going to be a buyer anyway. So
True. Well, when tying in the small business standpoint, aren't we could even make that on how do you use Zoom? How do you have a virtual small business?
right.
That could be valuable because a lot of them don't know, right? They don't know, and technology is intimidating, and they want it to be perfect. And the reality is it's not perfect. Those of you who've been on Zooms with me, Haven comes walking in at some point, you'll hear a 10-year-old in the background, and that's just part of the fun. And that is the reality of today. So small businesses don't know how to communicate with their people. Could that be a value add that being plugged right smack in the center of that to be able to show them how to do that?
Yeah, I think it's funny that you say that because I stumbled on a video yesterday. I'm actually wanting to find some Toastmaster groups that meet virtually.
Mm-hmm.
And I found a video of Toastmasters going into a small business to teach the small business owners how to use Zoom. And it was hilarious how they were talking. You see that? That's a computer, and there's a camera there. And so she can see you through the computer, like she's here, and you see her. It was so elementary, but and the video was recent. And so it reminded me that not everybody is tech savvy, and we need to be a consultant in that realm too, not just real estate, but
Mhm.
in all things social,
Absolutely.
relational.
Yeah.
You know, what just popped up for me is just, again, it's just kind of a good push of, you know, don't just accept the status quo, but look for opportunities here. A neighbor, I guess maybe on Nextdoor or something, my wife found out that Maggiano's is doing this deal of putting 5 dinners together for $40 that you can come and pick up. And the neighbor said, and these are really large portions. This is like, you know, 8 to 10 meals for me actually for $40. So we thought, okay, let's, you know, do that. So I drove over and put in an order and sat and waited for 20 or 30 minutes. And the kid that came out and told me, I said, man, looks like your parking lot's pretty full. You guys must be doing well. He said, yeah, so far today, we've done $30,000 in business with this special. I was like, wow. Today or this week? He said, no, today. We've done $30,000 in volume so far. And I was like, wow, somebody's buying food like crazy. So, you know, I wouldn't have anticipated that was, you know, for this a little $40 package, but that's a lot of $40 packages of food.
So Doug, tying on to that, which is awesome, right? Right now, there's so much negativity that's out there with the news, depending on the news source, all kinds of things, right? And there's a lot of fear that's out there, but just being totally real.
Yep.
What people are dying to hear are success stories. So what if you were to contact Maggiano's and to say, I just using it as an example, hey, you know what? I went and picked up dinner the other day and you guys are having incredible successes. I would love to interview you for 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, and do a spotlight on Maggiano's, how Maggiano's has rocked the COVID, right?
Yeah.
Now what does that look like? Like and here's what's cool. When you're sharing these stories, which I think that's amazing, by the way, and when we're sharing that, like our energy starts going up, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yep. Same
thing happens with small businesses. And if I can get in front of small businesses, this is why programs like BNI or Toastmasters or some of these referral business-to-business referral organizations work, is because when I get in touch with small businesses and the business owner, I now have access to the business. And if I can triple my database by being strategic, I know that's a strategy for building out my real estate business or coaching business, Doug. Right? Like,
yep.
How cool is that? And you're modeling behavior like, oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it makes us feel good, doesn't it? Like, puts a smile on my face, 30 grand in a day. Holy mama. Woo.
Yeah, if they were selling all those $40 packages, that's 750 customers that day.
Can you imagine?
And if you think about it, a lot of that's probably spurred just because people are stir crazy and wanting to get out for a few minutes. And so there's a whole other avenue to tap into, the stir crazy.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
How do you turn that into something positive and motivating?
Yeah. We talked about this, I believe it was a team meeting, or it might have been in the other, one of the other classes this week. Zooms start to blend a little bit. And we were talking about how you could do a spotlight business of the week, right? Like put it in a newsletter, put it in, you know, spotlight small business of the week. Small businesses help out small businesses. When you take care of these guys, they will come back to you tenfold at the end of this. I promise you that. They always remember. So if we're spotlighting Maggiano's, if we're spotlighting a different one, right? If we're looking for stir crazy activities, what would it look like if we did a, this is from earlier in the week, but what if we did a coloring contest for the kids? And you sent out, you know, email out this deal, because obviously you can't print, they can print it. And maybe it's your logo. Maybe it's a coloring contest to find the best logo for your business. And you send it out to your entire database. Here's the coolest thing. When you send me something like that, I am like doing cartwheels. The reason I'm doing cartwheels is not because I love to color. It's because I could get these little guys preoccupied for 15 minutes. Holy mama, I can get all kinds of stuff done then. So I became a raving fan of yours by a coloring contest. How crazy does that sound? Yet it's our world and it's stir crazy, right, Erica? Like that literally is what we're talking about.
So
These are
you've just given me some ideas around my database and my farm, which is my neighborhood. So the first thing was from my neighborhood. I'm the vice president of our HOA, and so I'm blessed to know just about everybody in the neighborhood. And
God
we've been
bless
trying to do what?
God bless you.
Yes. And we've been trying to foster community through this, well, even before, but through this COVID thing for sure. So we have what's called Fairy Island, and we're wanting to start doing just a safely socially distanced gathering at Fairy Island on Fridays. And what a great way we could have kids pick up coloring pages to color to bring the next week, and then we could have a little competition and maybe some gift baskets of watercolors and fun stuff for the kids to do that they can take home when they win their coloring contest.
Yeah.
And maybe a consolation prize for the ones that didn't win the contest.
Mm-hmm. And you could post all those pieces online on your Facebook page talking about community.
Mm-hmm.
See, when we started this conversation, we were talking about urgency. All of these things are strategies on urgency. It's just how do we do it? And that creates massive value. Massive value.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the other piece. How much did that cost us?
Nothing, to get the ideas.
Yeah. Get the ideas, and then the key, Coach Doug, is implementation, right?
Right.
So implementation, and then who are we having that's holding us accountable to this? Because these are all great ideas. And we could have $1 million bookshelf and notebooks with how to be the top realtor. But until we implement, until we have someone that's holding us accountable, right? Is it one of our peers? Is it an agent? I would highly recommend, ladies and gentlemen, I'd highly recommend, not a spouse. Trust me, it's nothing against our spouses, and they'll let us off the hook. So who are we leaning on that can cause community within our realtor circle, right? Who are we leaning on? Cause community, have accountability. Me as a coach, right? I mean, gosh, we got a coach on the line right now. And coaching is all about accountability. So the key piece is are we coming up with a plan? If you took this weekend, this weekend, I mean, I'd love to say, do it immediately. And we know that's not always possible, right? So if you gave yourself grace, took this weekend to come up with a plan around the strategies we talked about today, what could you implement Monday morning first thing? And who could you talk to about it?
Yeah, I forget who said it. I'm trying to remember as it's going through my head, but somebody well known in the past said, if you were told you had an hour to live, what would you do? He said, I'd spend 30 minutes planning how I was going to use that other 30 minutes.
That's funny. Yeah.
You got to do a plan.
Got to do a plan and write it down. Don't just put the plan up here, because then no one knows about it. Then we have secret plans because we're secret agents, right? Let's not be secret agents.
Well, and Gary says if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. So.
Yep. 1,000% correct. All right. We went a couple minutes over. I appreciate each of you. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. Any comments, ahas, takeaways before we shut her down?
Thanks for stirring up the juices again.
Absolutely. Love it.
Good to see everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks,
We kept,
Patrick.
Eric out of a felony with the U.S. Mail Service. That's a good thing we did that.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. No
Actually,
felony.
Thanks for saying
Yeah.
that, Doug, because I was gonna look it up. I'm like, I don't think we can do mailboxes. So
Yeah.
Can't do in them or on them. That's for U.S. Postal Service property. So
It's all right. Paper airplanes.
yeah, there you go. 6 feet of distance, social
6
separation.
feet of distance. I can do 6 feet with a paper airplane, no problem. Awesome. Hey, you guys, take care. Have a fantastic weekend. Thank you for being on the call. And if
Thank
you're
you.
able to make Jake's take, it's going to come on at 2 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.